Diolch, Llywydd. I have given a minute of my time to Jane Dodds, Luke Fletcher, Altaf Hussain, Joyce Watson and Mick Antoniw. I'd like to thank the petitions process, campaigning from key stakeholders and cross-party collaboration. The future of greyhound racing in Wales has been high on the agenda in the Senedd now since 2022. This journey was started by Vanessa from Hope Rescue when she submitted her petition calling for a ban on greyhound racing at the beginning of the Senedd term. It received an incredible 35,000 signatures, securing an evidence inquiry by the Petitions Committee and subsequently a debate in the Chamber which received support from cross-party members. Vanessa and her team have first-hand experience of the horrendous cruelty that has taken place at the Valleys track in South Wales, with dogs losing their lives and suffering life-altering injuries at that track on a regular basis. Hope Rescue started when Vanessa found Last Hope back in 2004, a greyhound from the Valley track that was found shot with a captive bolt gun and with its ears hacked off. This was so he couldn't be identified by his tattoos. At the time, his tail was still wagging. As chair of the cross-party group on animal welfare, I would like to thank all organisations involved in the Cut the Chase Coalition, Greyhound Rescue Wales, Hope Rescue, RSPCA, Dogs Trust and Blue Cross have worked tirelessly to engage with members and put forward the case for an outright ban on this cruel and unnecessary sport, sometimes in the face of aggressive opposition. I have tabled today's debate following the publication of the responses to the Welsh Government's consultation on the licensing of animal welfare establishments, activities and exhibits bill. Two-thirds of respondents were in favour of a phased or imminent ban on greyhound racing in Wales. This provides new and irrefutable evidence of the strength of support for an end to this activity, with more people in favour of a ban than the licensing of greyhound trainers, owners and keepers, as proposed elsewhere in the consultation. We must not ignore the significant majority of people who acknowledge that the welfare of racing dogs must come before entertainment. Cabinet Secretary, I wrote to you with the latest statistics from the Greyhound Board of Great Britain, GBGB, and the Valley Greyhound Stadium. In particular, it is really concerning that the frequency of race meetings has increased from 1 to 3 times per week between 1st of November 2023 and 31st of October 24. This will no doubt significantly increase the number of dogs injured at that track. 604 dogs have raced at the track during this period. Of those, 140 have been involved in incidents and injuries. That's nearly a quarter of them. The Greyhound Board of Great Britain's own statistics show that their oversight does not prevent or even minimise the chances of dogs being injured or dying on the racetracks. Despite GBGBs having implemented a welfare strategy, 389 dogs involved in racing on their tracks died in 2023, a 47% increase on the previous year. The statistics also show 180 dogs finished their racing career at Valleys during that time, a significant number to find homes for, putting strain on rescue centres across South Wales, with 55% of dogs handed over to charities at the end of their careers, with only 10% being owned by an owner or trainer. Last month, I visited the Dogs Trust in Cardiff and met Hiccup, a gorgeous ex-racer looking for a forever home. But due to the number of dogs retiring, rescue centres are struggling to find the homes they need for ex-racers like Hiccup. And according to the published minutes of a meeting held by the Greyhound Forum in July 2024, 2,500 retired dogs were residing in trainers' kennels while awaiting to be rehomed. That's an awful lot of dogs. And it demonstrates the concerning backlog of dogs in need of rescue spaces, demonstrating that as things stand, the industry is simply not sustainable. And very sadly for many dogs, their racing career does not have a happy ending. Last Hope was a stark example of the dark and secretive world of the disposal of unwanted racing dogs, known as wastage within the industry. Just 2 years after Last Hope's discovery, the national press broke the news of David Smith, a builder's merchant in County Durham, who used similar methods to dispose of upwards of 10,000 unwanted greyhounds. Having witnessed such immense cruelty with their own eyes, those within Greyhound Rescue Wales at the time were determined to bring some lasting good in memory of Last Hope. The Last Hope Fund was established to pay for the care costs of sick and injured greyhounds and lurchers who may otherwise have to be put to sleep, particularly those who are facing expensive or lifelong care complications. And to date, the fund has paid out well over £100,000 in veterinary and care costs to give racing greyhounds a second chance at life. The greyhound racing industry does not have the funds to cover the costs necessary to bring themselves even to the basic level of welfare standards. Instead, the charities in Cut the Chase coalition are left to pick up the pieces and foot the bill and all the rehoming costs as well. Greyhound racing is a cruel, unsustainable, out-of-date industry which we must resign to the past. Wales has always led the way with animal welfare legislation. We were the first country to introduce full bans on shock collars for dogs, snares and glue traps. We have a real opportunity now to add greyhound racing to this list of achievements before 2026 election for next year, and truly demonstrate that animal welfare is a priority for the Welsh Government, creating a lasting legacy for Welsh Labour to be proud of. New Zealand voted to ban greyhound racing, and the government plans to end it by the 1st of August next year, providing Wales with an important opportunity to join a movement which has global momentum and build upon our reputation as a compassionate and ethical nation on a global scale. For New Zealand, whose industry was worth a staggering 159 million New Zealand dollars, 73 million a year, and employs over 1,000 people, the injury and deaths of the dogs involved was enough to justify a ban. The longer we wait to act, the more dogs will be injured or sadly lose their life at the Valley's track. And I ask that the Cabinet Secretary does not miss this opportunity. We have to act now and to work with rescue centres and the charities because they will help you. Diolch.
Jane Dodds.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, and thank you to Carolyn for bringing this debate. And I want to pay tribute to the whole of us in this chamber across the parties because this is a real, we cite ourselves on something that is we all believe in, which is not to continue with greyhound racing. I want to pay tribute as well to the animal welfare organisations for the work that they do. It's a job I could never do. It's a job that involves seeing animals in the greatest of distress, seeing them injured and traumatised, and making difficult decisions about those animals. But I also want to pay tribute to them because I know they get abuse as well. They get abuse because of the stand that they take. And they've had abuse in relation to their call, the Cut the Chase coalition, to ban greyhound racing. We debated the Senedd petition, and I myself experienced abuse after that debate, significant abuse, online and direct to myself and my family. But you know, I don't care. I don't care because I'm standing here today for those animals who have no voice. And you've heard me talk about Arthur. Arthur was our first greyhound, collected from Wimbledon, had been on the racetrack in Wimbledon. There were 65 other greyhounds there who needed a forever home. He was only with us for 3 years because of the injuries and trauma he's experienced. But we've now got Wanda. Wanda was from Rhydaman Rescue Home. There are 20 dogs there. And I said to Greyhound Rescue Wales when I took Wanda, oh, this is great, you'll be able to get, you know, a bit of a rest here. They said, no, we've got a waiting list of greyhounds ready to take Wanda's place. I've learnt a lot from Wanda. I've learnt a lot from Arthur, and I'm very grateful to them. I hope we get this ban, because in my head it will be Arthur's Law. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch Llywydd, and I share the thanks to Carolyn for putting forward this short debate. And Jane is right, a number of us who have stood up in this chamber and have advocated for the ban or asked questions around the ban have faced a lot of abuse in the same way that those within the animal welfare sector have as well. And I think the frustration now felt by a number of people within the animal welfare sector is that we've gone through the consultation process. That took a significant amount of time, and yet we're still unclear as to whether the government is going to progress with this or where the government wants to take this. So what I'd like to get from the Cabinet Secretary tonight is what he now intends to do, now that the consultation process is done and we've seen the responses to that consultation, what he intends to do and where he intends to take this next. And as well, if the government has considered the evidence where bans have taken place elsewhere. We know, for example, Florida went through that process back in 2018. We now have the news in New Zealand as well. So there are examples in the world where this has happened in a phased way, in a way that can be done in partnership with the sector. So I'd be interested to hear his reflections on that and how it has progressed elsewhere in the world.
Hussain.
I would like to thank Carolyn for tabling this important debate and for agreeing to give me a minute of her time. I wholeheartedly agree that we need to end the cruelty that is greyhound racing, and we need to end it today. Caroline quite ably set out the case for a ban. This cruel, inhuman practice, I won't call it a sport, needs to stop. Far too many dogs, gentle, loving creatures, die or are badly injured. The gesture of profit for betting companies. We cannot sit idly by and allow it to continue. I urge the Cabinet Secretary to heed the calls of those of us taking part in this debate and those from across the length and breadth of Wales. Cut the chase and greyhound racing now.
Joyce Watson.
We do call ourselves a nation of dog lovers, and we do very often refer to dogs as being man's best friend. And yet, here we are, one of only 4 countries left in the world that is refusing, it seems to me, to ban greyhound racing. I don't understand why that is. I think we need to do it, and I think we need to use the last year that we've got to make sure that this actually stops. We have a time, and we have a time frame for when we can act, and in my view, we need to act now. I met Arthur the first time I met you, Jane, when you came in, and we met up and we had a coffee outside, and he just sat alongside us like the gentle giant that he was. And what's amazing about dogs is that they trust people even after all the pain and suffering they've gone through. We don't need to ask them to trust us after they've been abused. We need to stop that abuse from happening, and I think it's in our power to do it. I think I thank Carolyn for bringing it, but the fact of the numbers that are here for this short debate tonight is testament to the strength of feeling. So over to you, Minister. I hope you're going to deliver. I hope we're not going to have to jump over any hoops any further. And I think everybody here would support you in doing the right thing.
Antoniw.
Diolch. Why in 2025 does greyhound racing still exist when so many of the grounds have shut down? I think it's particularly clear. It exists for one real reason, and that is to feed online international gambling. Without that, there would be no greyhound racing. And what we know is that less than 25% of the dogs that actually make the cut out of all the overbred dogs to try and find the winners. Less than 25% actually come out of are bred in the UK. The vast majority of them are imported from abroad, and I think that sends that message. Around the age of 3, when their racing performance deteriorates, their racing days are over, and a minority may find loving homes courtesy of animal welfare charities. However, each year, only 3,000 of the 13,500 surplus greyhounds actually find a home. Many are euthanised, and every year 4,000 greyhounds in England and Wales simply fall off the radar. Their fate is unknown. The reality of greyhound racing is that the industry cannot exist without systematic animal cruelty. So Wales should be joining the overwhelming majority of nations, lead the way in the UK, consign this cruel sport to history, and also to spike the growth in international gambling, which feeds off this animal cruelty as well.
And I call on the Deputy First Minister and Cabinet Secretary for Climate Change and Rural Affairs to reply to the debate. Irranca-Davies. Thank you very much to Presiding, and thank you very much to Carolyn for presenting this short debate. And thank you also to the other members who have contributed to the debate.
I acknowledge and appreciate you have all, cross parties, advocated for some time for the welfare of racing greyhounds for quite some time now, and I know that you're all keenly awaiting our next steps. I do also recognise the strength of feeling in this chamber across political parties, and I note also, as has been remarked upon by colleagues, the recent policy change in New Zealand as well. Now, the consultation on the licensing of animal welfare establishments, activities and exhibits received over 1,000 responses, and like the petition which came before it, it also demonstrates significant strength of feeling outside of the chamber on this issue too. Now, as set out in the consultation, this is part of the first phase of development of a national model for the regulation of animal welfare, reviewing current legislation and assessing where improvements can be made. We also specifically included questions in relation to the future of greyhound racing in Wales. I would like to, again, to thank all those who responded to the consultation and for the valuable information that was provided. Now,
I recognise that this is a complex and emotional issue, and I want to ensure ongoing improvement to well-being, and that's why I am considering issues around licensing and a ban as part of the consultation. Although there are strong feelings on this in consultation and a high level of support for considering a gradual ban, we also asked for evidence to confirm such views. We have taken time to review this additional evidence, and we must ensure that any decisions are properly related.
Now, whilst there was strong sentiment regarding a phased ban in the consultation and a high level of support for considering it, we also requested evidence to substantiate such opinions. So we have taken time to review the additional evidence needed in order that we can ensure then that the decisions are well informed. Our priorities for animal welfare are set out, of course, in our animal welfare plan for Wales. It includes a timetable for the delivery of our animal welfare programme for government commitments and other animal welfare priorities. Just to be clear, it is my goal for Wales to be recognised for its exemplary standards of animal welfare, and the plan sets out how we will strive for progress in this and deliver reform for farm, for companion and other kept animals as well. And a fundamental consideration of our plan is to promote education and awareness amongst everyone involved in keeping animals. This will not only help provide a good quality of life for animals in Wales, but also do much to ensure future generations of animal keepers will understand how applying best practice makes a positive difference. Extended across the government term, it focuses on high standards, the adoption and sharing of best practice, engagement with key stakeholders, effective enforcement, and the championing of education and responsible ownership. And indeed, one of these commitments is to develop that national model for the regulation of animal welfare, introducing regulation for animal welfare establishments, for activities and for exhibits. I remain committed to this work, and officials continue to engage with a range of stakeholders, including the Animal Welfare Network Wales and the Companion Animal Welfare Group Wales. And another significant recent development in animal welfare is the incredible work being delivered on improving responsible dog ownership and breeding. The second of our multi-agency annual summits was held in October, where both myself and Wales's Chief Veterinary Officer heard the updates from stakeholders about the progress being made, as well as approaches to addressing current and emerging issues. And these summits not only highlight the achievements, but offer us the opportunity to share knowledge and demonstrate how this multi-agency collaborative approach is helping to promote and develop responsible dog breeding and ownership. Regarding the specific issue of greyhound racing in Wales, alongside the development of the wider national model for the regulation of animal welfare and building on the written statement we published on the 18th of December, I am looking forward to sharing our next steps in the spring. So I would like to thank all members, Carolyn and all members, for bringing this issue to the fore, recognising the cross-party support that has been demonstrated here today, recognising the responses to the consultation as well. I'm looking forward to bringing forward our next steps in the spring, and my thanks to everybody for, once again, as before when the petition was brought forward as well, for sharing their thoughts on the way forward. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch I ysgrifennu.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary, and I thank to Carolyn and all other speakers, and that brings today's proceedings to a close.